This is the way.
This is the way. This is the way.
Hey guys, welcome to another edition of The Way Online. Pastor Nick, Pastor Alex here. We're in a brand new series that we titled This is the Way, which there's a little bit of a theme going on. And so we're super excited to be here and to have some fun with you. Have you ever had this problem where you thought you could live life best on your own? As Christians and as sometimes we think that we can take our lives in our own hands and we think we know what's best. Yeah. You ever been there before?
All the time.
You ever been there before? You think you know what's best. But the problem is that we are not supposed to live life our own way. We're supposed to live life God's way. We think that we are following God's way because we go to church or we read the Bible and different things like that. So when someone hurts us or attacks us, right, what do? We fight back, right? When someone hurts or attacks us, we fight back. Like if we were to get into a fight right now and he were to hit me, I would hit him back. I'm just kidding. He would probably really hurt me and I would fall down and it would be really bad. But the Bible states clearly that this is not supposed to be like for those who follow God. For those who understand who He is, who are people of the way. See what we did there? It's awesome. It's going to be awesome. We're supposed to live life to a different standard, right? And our culture will say all around us that make sure that you take care of you and you get what you deserve. And someone hurts you, hurt them back. And that's not how we're supposed to live. In fact, Paul shows us that the followers of the way, right? That's what Paul called the early church followers, the people of the way, which is super cool. Play on words, play on. Come on. We love it. It's good. It's awesome. It's that Paul, the followers of the way, that the real enemy isn't other people, but something else entirely, right? And so this is where the armor of God comes in, because we don't fight a physical enemy. Me and Pastor Alex, we don't fight each other. We don't fight those who think differently, who act differently. We fight in a different realm. And let's talk more about that. It says in Ephesians 6, 11 through 12, put on the full armor of God so that you can stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of the dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. It is the dark side versus the light side. Ha! I did it again. It's awesome. There's so many things that you can do. But there's this battle that we fight that we can't see and we have to be prepared for it. And this is where the armor of God comes in. Pastor Alex, break that down.
So let's pull it into the Star Wars universe real quick.
Come on.
In the Star Wars universe, there is a story called of the Mandalorian, right? We learn about a group called the Mandalorians.
Mando.
Go figure, right? This group of called the Mandalorians are a group of people that wear armor like all the time. Now, in the Star Wars universe, they were a little different. So all the Star Wars fans that know the Star Wars universe are like, wait, they never take off their armor? That's weird. Like, that's different to us. Because many people believe this is probably what happened. We all theorize this idea that things changed after a certain event. In the Star Wars universe, the Empire, like if you know anything about the Star Wars universe, right? The Empire came in and they decimated and destroyed the Mandalorians. They came in and wiped them out almost. And so the Mandalorians had to change the way they lived. They had to actually begin acting differently and follow a new creed. And that's why they began to say something called, this is the way. That's where the phrase came from, this is the way. So the hero in the story of Mandalorian called Din Djarin.
Say that.
Sorry,
that's fast.
That's hard. He's something called a foundling. Someone who chooses to follow a new way of life. He wasn't actually a blood Mandalorian. So he wasn't born into the Mandalorian race. He was found and he got brought into this race, and now he has to follow this way of life and choose to do things their way. And he's called a foundling as a result. And so he has to actually follow what they tell him to do. They have a purpose for everything they do. They see the armor as vital to their beliefs, so they hold on to it and never take it off in front of others. They understand the importance of this protection, possibly because of the enemies that destroyed them during that whole thing they called the Purge. Okay? Yeah, that's literally what they call it. They know their enemy, so they are constantly aware of having their armor for that protection. Yeah. Because they know their enemy. So this brings us back to our scripture today, where Paul was talking to the Ephesians. The Ephesians the Ephesian church is one of the central churches of that time period. And so Paul is trying to explain to the Ephesians, look, you need to know who your enemy is.
Yeah.
You need to know all about them. Now, understand this, as Pastor Nick alluded to it earlier, the early church was actually called followers of the way.
Come on, somebody.
That's crazy, right? The connection right there, right? That's awesome. Followers of the way. And so Paul was talking to followers of the way and saying, this is how you need to live. This is what you need to begin doing. And so he tells them who the enemy is. The enemy is not physical flesh and blood people. So if somebody hurts you, Paul's saying that person isn't the real enemy. That person isn't the one that's really the issue here. This is why Jesus tells us that we are called to forgive people. We're called to show mercy. Why? Because people are not the enemy. The enemy is the spiritual forces of this dark
Did you hear
world.
that? That people aren't the enemy.
People are not
Come on.
the enemy. See, the spiritual forces of this dark world will do anything, but will use any means necessary to take down the people of God. They will do anything they can to actually cause us to walk away from God. They'll use people, they'll use technology, countries, politics, anything to get you distracted from doing the right thing. They want you to focus on the wrong things. So before we continue on, this is not to say that everything that happens to you is satanic. Okay, I don't want you guys to think that everything. The toaster broke.
You stub your toe, it's not the devil.
No, it's not the devil. The toaster broke.
Sometimes though.
Satan is in my toaster. He broke my toaster. Right? Like that's not what we're saying
You
here.
ever stub your pinky toe?
Oh, that's
that's
worse.
from the devil.
That's worse.
That's from the devil. Okay.
But
Big
what
toe?
we're trying to say here is there are very real spiritual forces at work in our world, and they work to take down those who follow God.
They want to destroy your life.
They do. Paul wants us to realize that people are not the problem, it's the spiritual realm. So how do we protect against this? How do we combat something that's unseen? How do we do anything to actually fight something that we can't see?
Here it comes.
That's where the armor of God comes in.
Bam. There it is.
That's the purpose
Boom.
of the armor of God, is to actually be able to combat and protect you against the unseen world.